Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, happy belated Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And of course, there's always a bigger 5th. And also happy Revenge of the 6th to people watching tomorrow. We'll be breaking down the brand new trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're also going to be discussing Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett, and a lot of other news as well. We're excited to get into it. My name is Chris, and joining me on the show, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. And yes, a happy belated May the 4th be with you. I feel like we say this every year, but I think it might actually be true this time. This might have been the busiest May the 4th yet, because we got a new 1-hour documentary about the making of the Book of Boba Fett with Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett, the musical, the series, the stage play, the movie, the comic book, the novel, the short story, the poem. And we got the incredible new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, which I'm so excited to go through with a fine-tooth comb here. But yeah, in previous years, it's usually the choice between a new release like the series premiere of The Bad Batch or a big announcement of some kind, whether it's a trailer or an announcement of a new director or a new movie. This year, we got both, and I think that's pretty sweet. It's pretty great. It was a pretty great Star Wars Day, and I know I had a lot of fun with just all the general Star Wars-ness of May 4th, as we always do. So I'm looking forward to getting into everything. It's going to be a great show. One day late for Star Wars Day, but who really cares when we have this much good stuff to talk about?
It's Star Wars week, so we had to put it in the middle of the 3 days. So
of course, yeah.
That makes a little bit more sense there. Yeah, also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Happy May 4th. It's always a bigger 5th, Revenge of the 6th, whatever you want to call it.
The 7th sister.
We have passed through the boundary, and we are getting very close to Star Wars Celebration, because I was reminded of this because I had a very good Star Wars Day, because these came in the mail.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, wow, okay, it's happening, guys. It's really it's for real. So yeah, very, very excited. A lot. This was I think I have to agree, this is one of the biggest Star Wars days. And we had a really big one last year. If you don't remember, if you don't recall, I was reminded of this yesterday, was the fact of we had the Bad Batch premiere. Like, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, the Bad Batch, that happened. That was a really good show. I enjoyed that a lot. First episode was really, really good. It was a lot of fun to watch on Star Wars Day.
I'd like a second season of that. I'd like a second season of that, and some news about a second season of that. Yeah, well, and you go back a year before that, on May 4th, was the premiere of Victory and Death, the final episode of the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah.
So we've been on this is 3 years in a row. This is a three-peat of just killer Star Wars days, with some just phenomenal releases and phenomenal content. So yeah, I don't know. What's the plan for next year? Who knows at this point?
We'll have 2 Star Wars shows premiering on the same day.
Whoa. Or what about the finale for one show and the premiere of another show?
And they're related.
And it's like the Ahsoka show ends, and then I don't know, whatever the Rangers of the New Republic replacement starts, and it's just like, so you get basically 16 weeks all in a row of Mandoverse material.
Really starting to sound like there's always a bigger fourth.
Really, it's kind of veering into that territory. But yeah, who knows? I mean, next year, this year has been huge, and this year will continue to be huge as we move into Andor season and Mando season, and hopefully Bad Batch season 2 season, and hopefully even more. But next year there'll be some more shows. Some we know about, some we don't, and who knows what we'll be talking about on May 4th. You know what I want to do now? Remember how we went through all of the April 10ths for the last 12 years? I kind of want to go back now and do all the May 4ths, but I feel like that's a project for next year. I don't know if we can do that now.
All the way when it was just a fan thing and people were just saying it on social media kind of as a joke, and then to when it got co-opted by the corporate world, and then we started actually getting content.
Yeah, or all those years where we convinced ourselves that something huge was going to happen. They were going to announce the cast of Episode 7 and show us the first trailer on May 4th. And Disney Lucasfilm was like, "What? You want us? We're not ready for that. What are you talking about? The movie's 3 years away. What do you mean?"
Nope, random Thursday. That's what you get.
Random Thursday. Hey, I love me a random Thursday announcement. We've
had a lot of great random Thursdays. I mean, Star Wars Day is a legendary all alone, but any random Thursday is can be quite all right too.
Well, and we've said this before, but for those of us that are either on a Star Wars podcast like the three of us, or that would listen to a Star Wars podcast like the three of us, every day is Star Wars Day. It's not like it's only Star Wars Day and then a few more people are celebrating.
And see, welcome to my world as someone who is working on social media. My job for the last 12 years or more now, is post about Star Wars on social media. So what do you do? What do you do on Star Wars Day? Post more Star Wars. But what if every other day you're posting as much Star Wars as possible? It can sometimes drive someone insane.
Oh, Mark Hamill there.
Yeah, going full Mark's second best.
Happy Star Wars.
Second best role. All right, let's plug some things and talk about a trailer.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we do here. If you're watching, punch that subscribe button. Chewy, you can also super chat with us so that we can buy more pancakes for you at IHOP. That's really what's happening here. Becoming a channel member will also buy us more syrup at IHOP. And if you want butter on your pancakes, patreon.com/the SWU, where our budget for that is coming from. But you get a t-shirt with that one in addition to the butter, so you can spill the butter on your tea.
Oh, yeah, you just use it as a napkin, just all over your face.
That's right. And then cultureslate.com/store is you're one of those people that put salt or sugar or some other random thing on your pancakes. That's where you
salt on pancakes.
Yeah, salt. Yeah, no, that's wrong. That is just wrong.
In IHOP doing that kind of stuff. Okay.
We're gonna have a bouncer at the door at IHOP, not in case people get rowdy, but in case people try putting salt on their pancakes. So just be like, no, you're out of here, pal.
Okay, for every Culture Slate related shirt that we sell, we will get one chocolate chip for Jesse's pancake. So let's see how many chocolate chips we can put on Jesse's pancake.
Jesse, a man after my own heart, wanting chocolate chip pancakes. I think we'll make that happen. We can make that happen.
That's right. And make sure you check out all those other great shows on our network: Star Wars Culture Chatter Squadron, Ion Cannon. Really cool piece of content on Star Wars Culture yesterday. Hannah celebrated May 4th by building a Lego set on stream, which is not something that people do kind of at our overall network much. So a really unique piece of content. Check that out.
I just have to call out Hannah really quick. She posted something on Twitter today, or I think it was maybe yesterday. She said, "Oh, if this tweet gets 500 likes, I'll cosplay as George Lucas at Star Wars Celebration. Guess what? It got it. So I think she's freaking out a little bit.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh yeah, go get your plaid shirt, Hannah. You got to get ready for Celebration.
Oh, this is gonna be fantastic. Also check out Catherine's reaction on the Culture Slate channel to the Kenobi trailer. It was amazing. And for those of you who are watching Moon Knight, she's posting her reactions of Moon Knight on there too, which is super cool. And as always, you can check Hannah's awesome reactions on the Star Wars Culture YouTube. So check those out. If you want to give feedback to the show, swunderworld@gmail.com. And if you don't want to wait 2 months or 2 years or 2 decades, though, the quickest way to us is by the super chat in our chat right here to guarantee that your thoughts will be read and discussed on the show. And then finally, make sure that you subscribe and review to our show on all the non-YouTube places like Apple Podcasts, Google. I think it's Google Podcasts now. I got to fix that. I think they've rebranded for the 10th time. And Spotify, which has always been just Spotify. Percy lives. Let's get into the news.
He does, and everybody should be following him on Instagram at Percy the Puffer Pig. All right, let's dive into things. We'll talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer that dropped on May the 4th. What a wonderful thing to have on a Wednesday morning. A nice Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. We'll start how we always do. We'll go around the virtual table here and give our initial impressions of the trailer. And Ben, as always, we're going to throw it to you first.
Yeah, so this was a great trailer, and I love it for the fact that it gave us a lot, but also didn't give us a whole lot. It feels like they're holding back still, and I appreciate that. It feels like, and I'm not just saying that as like I have all these fan theories that I want confirmed of all these cameos that I think are going to happen. I'm just saying, like, there's some stuff that's got to happen in this show that I feel like is inevitable from a certain point of view that they're not showing. Something as simple as Obi-Wan Kenobi wielding a lightsaber. We have not seen that in a trailer yet. That's pretty crazy.
Wow.
But it makes sense in the context of the story. He's doing a Kanan thing. He's only using a blaster, an uncivilized weapon, I might add.
So uncivilized.
But it makes sense, and I like that they're holding back even the little things like that, the things that we know we're going to see. They're like, no, we're going to string you along and hold this back. So that's really cool. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this trailer. There's a lot of stuff to speculate about, a lot of stuff to meme, but overall, it's still like, I just want to see this thing. I want it. There's like a lot going on. We get more dialogue. We get more character interactions. On that Obi-Wan and Owen scene is phenomenal. I want more of that. Yes. I want a whole episode of that.
Talk about things with 45 years worth of build up to them actually seeing interaction between Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan Kenobi, knowing
45 years. We've never had those two on screen talking to each other. Can you believe it?
Amazing.
I sort of can, because why would we have had them on screen talking to each other? But it's long overdue. It's long overdue. Chris, what about you? Your overall thoughts on the new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer?
Yeah, I mean, when I was first watching it at the beginning, I was a little concerned because it looks like they were kind of just showing maybe a slightly longer version of the scenes that we had in the teaser. So I was like, "Ooh, are they really going to show that much more here? Or is this just going to be kind of like a little bit more?" But I'm like, no, they have to drop some new things in here. What's the point of a trailer if they don't reveal a little bit more? So for me, kind of the biggest interesting thing was kind of like seeing the bounty hunters that they're sending after Obi-Wan.
The underworld.
Yes, so I think that's pretty cool. I want to know who this Deveronian is. Is this the Deveronian from the Cantina? Is this a Deveronian from the comic books? Like, I'm curious to see, because that's always been one of my favorite species. I think they look super cool. So I'm excited for that character and the character that looks kind of a little bit like for LOM.
Yeah, I think that is for LOM. Yeah.
It might be. So I thought that was really awesome too. And then there was that human character that was kind of interesting as well, that we'll get into a bit later. And then obviously you have a little bit more of an extended reveal of Darth Vader, because you've got you go from just the breathing sound to actually seeing him being put together and seeing the chest plate. So that was kind of really cool to see. So, I think they added enough to the trailer to make it worth being a big event. Nothing completely unexpected from the trailer. I do think they are holding back so much, like they kind of have been recently with stuff. So I'm very curious to see what is being omitted here. But as always, could not be more hyped for this show. It's difficult because it reminds me of the hype for The Last Jedi, where it's like, this could be the best Star Wars thing ever at that opportunity. So, ooh, that's scary.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. Like this trailer, you're right. I'm sort of thinking about it now. It doesn't show that much more than the old one, than the previous one. It hits a lot of the same beats. But I feel like both this trailer and the previous one have been so well constructed as individual entities that I didn't even mind that. I was just enjoying the trailer as its own thing, which I have to say I haven't for a lot of the Disney Plus Star Wars things. I've loved the end product, the show that comes out of it, but the Mando trailers and the Book of Boba Fett trailer have just sort of felt like flashes of imagery that didn't really show me anything and weren't really they were entertaining in that they gave us a glimpse at what was to come, but in and of themselves as a singular piece of entertainment, they didn't really grab me the way these two trailers have. They've made me things that I want I want to watch over and over again with this trailer and the previous one.
And psychologically, though, as well, I think having a little bit more John Williams influence in these trailers is also something that pins them together a little bit more than having the Ludwig Göransson and the newer music and some of the other ones. So I think the fact that this began with, I think, was it Duel of the Fates at the beginning of this one? That gets you primed already to love it.
It's hard not to get excited when Duel of the Fates gets played. That's hard not to be excited for that. Joel jumping in with the super chat. This show will get a Last Jedi reaction guarantee. Yeah, we've talked about it. We've talked about it a lot in previous weeks.
Joel.
Yeah.
I disagree. So we have a gentleman's debt here, I suppose.
Yeah, you'll have to settle it over some pancakes in a couple of weeks.
And some fisticuffs in the parking lot.
Yes, exactly.
No, there will be no fisticuffs at the IHOP party. Ben, you of all people should know that.
Oh man. No, I think this is going to be loved by everybody. I think everybody's going to be like, oh, this is what Star Wars should be. And I think some people might actually use it to compare it to things like The Last Jedi and put it down by saying that this is better. Like, I think that's my prediction for this.
I mean, Star Wars fans can't praise something without putting something else down.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. So it will be a backhanded compliment perhaps when people say they like this show.
And I just want to say I'm guilty of it because I just praised this trailer by knocking the Book of Boba Fett and the Mando trailer. So guilty.
Yeah.
I'll be led away by some stormtroopers any minute. But what I want to say about this trailer really is, we've talked in the last couple of weeks about how it's sort of interesting that a lot of the marketing outside the trailer had been built around this showdown between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, but Darth Vader himself has not appeared a whole lot. He's not in the trail. He wasn't in the first trailer. He's only been in one still image. Like they're holding back on showing us much of Darth Vader or showing us much of the duel that they've been teasing in this show. And what struck me about this trailer is how much not Darth Vader necessarily, but the ghost of Anakin Skywalker sort of looms over this trailer. Because there's the big moment with Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan where Owen says, leave us alone. And Obi-Wan's like, when the time's right, he must be trained. And Owen hits him back with the ultimate comeback to Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is like, you trained his father. And so, all you can tell, like, that's all Obi-Wan's been thinking about for these years. And he's probably looking at Luke as like, oh, here's my chance to get this right. This will begin to make things right. But then at the end of the trailer, right before we get to the shots of Darth Vader being put together, the Inquisitor, the Moses Ingram character, she yells at Obi-Wan, "You can't run, Obi-Wan. You can't escape him." And in a sense, she's talking about Darth Vader. She's talking about the big scary dude in the suit of armor who will hunt him down. But for Obi-Wan, it's twofold. It's the Vader that will be chasing him that he can't escape, but also what Vader represents, which is his failure with Anakin. And so Obi-Wan is as much threatened by having to see or having to confront that failure with Anakin as he is by the dude with the red lightsaber who's going to try and chop his head off. So even though we only get these quick glimpses at Darth Vader, not even a full shot of Darth Vader or even his helmet. I love that the closing shot of the trailer, well, not the closing shot, but kind of the money shot of the trailer is Darth Vader's chest plate. I thought that was a nice touch rather than the helmet. But it feels like Anakin and Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship and what that meant to the two of them is going to be is going to play a big part in the series, because that's sort of what this trailer is all about, even though we barely see Vader, and honestly we don't even see as much Obi-Wan as I thought we might in this trailer. There's a lot of other characters and a lot of who are featured very prominently in these trailers, and I feel like that's a sign that they're going to be featured very prominently in at least the first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's great that this show that's called Obi-Wan Kenobi is very much taking on that kind of ensemble cast like other awesome Star Wars things. So appreciate it.
And it's just amazing that we're in this scenario where the one character that we know, speaking of how characters look and how they're translated, the one character that we know will look exactly the same as he has in every other Star Wars thing is the one character that they're holding back on showing him, and it's Darth Vader.
Joel coming in with another super chat saying, speaking of Owen, one thing I like about the Queen's Hope book is how it recontextualizes Owen and Beru adopting Luke, not because he's Anakin's kid, but because he's Shmi's grandson. They see her in him. That's cool. I haven't read the book yet. I haven't read the book yet, really, so cool. I'm looking forward to seeing
that's
this.
The character that actually there's a shockingly not a lot of media about that her Shmi. Like I mean, she's the mother of Anakin. She's the one that shaped him for like 8-9 years of his life. She's the one that was just his attachment to her was one of the big parts of his turning to the dark side. And so it's actually kind of surprising that Shmi hasn't been really delved into more in Star Wars media.
It's similar to something else we've talked about a fair bit, which is the fact that, you know, the first of those Queen's, I want to say Queen's Gambit, but that's not right. Queen's Hope, Queen's Shadow, those books. You know, the first one of those, which came out in like 2018, 2019, was the first Padme novel ever. And I feel like there's a couple of characters from the prequel trilogy who, despite their importance to the saga, in part because of the reaction to those movies, and in part because of just the way our culture is, and certainly was in that time, the late 90s, early 2000s, didn't get their due in the tie-in material, whether that's novels, comics, etc. And so and you look at the novels that came out in that era, the comics that came out in that era, they were really focused on the Jedi characters, on Anakin and Obi-Wan and Mace Windu and even Yoda. And fair play to them, those are all worthy characters of getting their own stories. But there are other ones who, like Padme and Shmi, who are absolutely essential to the larger story that got left to the sidelines because, you know, it wasn't cool to make a book about the Queen going around with saving the day and things like that because of the prequels and all that stuff. So yeah, but that's interesting. I hope that's something that can be explored more in other media. Let's start going through this trailer a little bit more with a fine-tooth comb here. We begin with a shot of a ship approaching a planet, and then there's some shots of the stormtroopers with the fifth brother on the planet. That shot, of course, if you're watching, is my virtual background for this week. I have to say all of these shots on this Reno planet here, I absolutely adore them because of how much they look like the Star Wars Underworld test footage that came out.
I agree.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like when that test footage came out, I remember sort of having a realization of, oh wow, this is what Star Wars used to look like, but doesn't anymore, and I kind of miss it because like that was there's a big look in Attack of the Clones and even some of the Clone Wars stuff like that was sort of all neon and everything and the lower levels of Coruscant. And I was missing it because we were getting, more of an OT vibe. And it's cool that they've kind of circled back to it. And we're getting some of that alongside the more OT, real actual desert stuff with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think it's really cool to see the two eras and two ages of Star Wars melded together in this one show.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the creators, Deborah Chow, all of them are aware and kind of have somehow tangibly kind of taken hold of that aesthetic and understood that, like, yes, each trilogy, each of these movies has a different aesthetic. It feels different. It looks kind of different, even though it's all supposed to be one universe. And if you're making a show between these movies, you've got to pull from both. Because if you're making a story about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, it would be on Tatooine with Luke Skywalker and other characters. The go-to would be, make it like the original trilogy. And that's what a lot of stuff has been in recent years. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm glad we're getting more diversity in like locales, stuff like that. And it feels like that because I think the prequels went to a lot of interesting places and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see, and went to a lot of urban areas, I think, which is where this comes in, versus a lot of the original trilogy and even the sequel trilogy and Mandalorian, whatever, are going to a lot of like planets with not a lot of people there. And this is like, hey, there's a lot of people that live here.
They're very much, they're those outer rim stories where people are, literally going to planets because there's no people. That's the point. The reason why Hoth is in Empire Strikes Back is because they need to be as far away from people as possible so no one can find them. And Tatooine is, the planet furthest from the bright center of the universe and all of these things as a storytelling mechanism. And so whereas, the prequels are very much, they're the story of the galaxy and the center of the galaxy and the core worlds and Coruscant and all this urban stuff. And so there's definitely a big difference. It's not just about the kind of new universe versus the used universe, but it's also essentially again that central universe versus the outer universe type delineation. So it's really cool to have this aesthetic in it, and I agree. The Underworld show was going to be the type of show that I would make if I were to make a Star Wars show. So, which is just so hilarious that it shares the name with this podcast, because that is absolutely unrelated. So seeing elements of that in this show is just absolutely exciting. That we're going to see that extended from that really good foundation that George Lucas laid with the world building of the prequels, which I think is probably the best world building of all of the trilogies in Star Wars media
of all time. I think it also just works for Obi-Wan's story specifically. It's just as a bit of visual storytelling, because Obi-Wan in the original trilogy is someone who has largely left that world behind, the world of the prequels behind. He's left that part of his life in the past, and he's singularly focused on one thing now. And that's sort of where he is it seems, at least at the beginning of this show. He's trying at least to be singularly focused on protecting Luke and hopefully one day training him despite his uncle's objections. And then something's going to happen that draws him back into a life that he thought he left behind. And that life was very much what we saw in the prequels. So it just makes sense to show a world and show a galaxy that looks more like the prequels, because it's Obi-Wan, just when he thought he was out, he's drawn back in to that. And so it's him sort of having to revisit that part of his life. And so, yeah, it's good to visually show that as well. Jesse in the chat, bringing it back to our conversation about Shmi, he says, wondering if we'll get a moment of Obi-Wan talking to Shmi at her gravesite, apologizing for failing to train Anakin. Well, now we better. Oh my God! Another thing I'd never considered, but like, imagine the tearjerker moment. Obi-Wan never met Shmi, but Qui-Gon did. And, Obi-Wan probably heard about her from Qui-Gon and certainly from Anakin. Yeah. Why, that would be something else. That would be something else. I hope to see that.
Okay, Jesse, it's all on you now. We're going to be mad. I am specifically going to be mad. I'm going to see you in less than a month. So I can be mad in your face and tell you how disappointed I am when this doesn't happen.
That's wild. Joel saying, I like to headcanon one of the reasons Luke got through to Vader was because Vader saw a lot of Padme and his son. I think so. I like that. I like that bit of headcanon as well. I think that works. Jesse says, sorry, not sorry for bringing up such a great idea. Yeah, no, it's true. It's fair. It's a great idea. Should not apologize for it. Moving a little bit further along in the trailer, we get now to Tatooine, the planet that's farthest from, seeing a lot of action because 3 scary looking folks are showing up on the streets of Mos Eisley with the Grand Inquisitor, the 5th brother, and Moses Ingram's character. Do we have a name or a number for that Inquisitor yet? I don't think so. Not one that I can think of.
While we're talking about it,
yeah, we see the 3 of them arriving on Tatooine. I have to say, I think the Grand Inquisitor, a lot has been made about the look and the translation of the animation to the live action.
Third sister.
Okay, third sister.
Also, Reva. Now, I don't know where this information is coming from because it's on IMDb, but it says Inquisitor Reva. Yeah, because we talked about it because we thought it might be related to Revan.
Okay.
So Revan without an N, Reva.
Reva, sure.
The third sister is what IMDb is saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we see the 3 of them on Tatooine, and as I was saying, there's been lot's been made of the Grand Inquisitor and his look and the translation from the animation to the live action. More and more, I'm convinced that the only mistake they made in that previous trailer was choosing the shot they chose to be the first shot of the Grand Inquisitor, because in everything else he looks great. This shot is tremendous. This is a tremendous shot.
It's all been edited.
I see you say that, but also this week there was a new behind the scenes picture showing Deborah Chow, not Jason Isaacs, Rupert Friend, and Moses Ingram on the set. And
look at how pronounced his head is. That is quite the Photoshop job to lengthen the size.
It was the angles and the
head.
lighting were the enemies the whole time.
They were. Grand Inquisitor looks great in all of these new shots. And honestly, you go back to the first trailer, he looks great in the second shot in that with the spinning lightsaber. It's just that first shot was the wrong one to have it be our introduction to him. I think when we see that shot in context, it won't stand out the way it does. But the way they chose to have it be the first shot, didn't do themselves any favors. I think that was the one of the bigger mistakes of the marketing for the show.
It's like that thing with people reading the script of The Last Jedi to make sure a couple things were explained better. Like, sometimes when you're so close to a project, like if you're hanging out with the Grand Inquisitor every day on set, you have this collective idea of what he looks like based on all of the scenes and all the time that you spent with the character. And so then when you're cutting a trailer together, you're not really thinking about what it would be like to see him for the first time and how that reaction would be. They need to make sure that every movie and every show and every cut of a trailer, every draft cut has somebody watching it who's never seen any of this before they put it out, so they can just point out little things like, oh, the first shot of this one character isn't really representative of what they look like in the other shots. So,
well, or the other thing that might have happened is the person who was cutting the trailer didn't know the Grand Inquisitor was a character we'd seen before in another format. So for them, if you don't know, if you haven't seen the Grand Inquisitor on Rebels, you might have thought that first shot was a perfectly reasonable shot to include in your trailer, and were befuddled as to the reaction that it got.
I'm pretty sure Bob in social media was like, hey guys, I've been seeing the discourse. The next trailer, you better have shots of him not in shadow, not at night, broad daylight,
without a lens flare.
See how big his forehead is.
Well, just that he looks scary and intimidating, and all the things that you need from the Grand Inquisitor.
Also, just like the details, I think you really couldn't see like the detail. Like clearly here, you can see the lines. Like you can see his eyes are very inset; they're dark. You can see the little V-shaped little marking tattoo thing on his forehead. Like there's a lot of detail there that you couldn't see in the other shots, and like they did they didn't just like put a bald cap on Rupert Friend and paint him white. Like they did some work here, and those earlier trailers were not doing their work any favor.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about some of the dialogue that we're hearing in with these opening shots. We hear Obi-Wan say, "They're coming, stay hidden, or we will not survive." I desperately want to know who he's talking to. I want to know.
I have theories. I think we're looking at another Jedi or multiple other Jedi, and I think we see one of them in this trailer. I'll talk about it when we get there. But I think all this. I don't think they're coming here for Obi-Wan or Luke. I think they're chasing another Jedi.
Interesting.
On Tatooine, and that just so happens, and maybe something happens, because there are people that know Obi-Wan is there. Maybe Bail Organa slipped up, or something happened, or someone saw him, or whatever else. And we know there's other Jedi out there, and that's why the Inquisitors exist. Well, maybe some of them made it to Tatooine and just so happens to be in the area, and that causes a problem, because there is a lot more going on Tatooine than there appears.
Yeah, there always seems to be. Yeah, for the planet that's farthest from. Luke must have been real sheltered. Like Owen and Beru aren't letting him off the farm, because if you make it all the way to Mos Eisley, there's like Inquisitors showing up with red lightsabers, hunting people down, chasing people around. You make it to Mos Espa, there's a whole crime syndicate with people fighting each other over spice. It's like there's so much going on Tatooine, but Luke doesn't get to see more than his little corner, and so he's like, nothing ever happens here.
Well, I mean, the thing that's bizarre about that statement is that when you look at it from like a socioeconomic geopolitical point of view or whatever, it's like this is a transit hub. Like the reason why Mos Eisley spaceport is there is because people go to Tatooine to then kind of get to other places in the Outer Rim. So it's kind of more accurate to say, yeah, this is pretty far from the center of the universe, but this is the center of the Outer Rim universe very much. So, and very important for that reason.
I just had an epiphany here. I've watched The Phantom Menace 1,000 times, and I just realized, literally when Qui-Gon and Padme walk into Mos Espa, Qui-Gon says, "This is a place where people go where they don't wish to be found." Directly foreshadowing what Obi-Wan and everyone else does, 30 years later.
Yeah, and one reason they might want to not go there, as Joel points out, that's where the Emperor of Crime with Jabba the Hutt lives. So even though there's a lot of action on Tatooine, it may not be, it's not the kind of action that draws attention. There's the Bunta Eve Classic, and that's once a week, but that's like the only big event that happens there that people actually want to go to. It's not going to be a lot of concerts. Your favorite band's not showing up, except in that one episode of Visions. There's not concerts. There's the theater sucks. The movie theaters are far away from where Obi-Wan from where Luke lives. Like, it's just, he can't, his favorite sports, they don't don't have teams on Tatooine. There's not a lot going on.
And
if
the
you're Luke
Empire,
Skywalker living on your moisture farm, your uncle's
and the
moisture farm.
Empire, maybe even at this point, may not be able to operate as unrestricted as they go in other parts of the galaxy. This is Hutt space. This is space controlled by the Hutts, and the Hutts are very powerful. Even the Republic, during the Clone Wars, was like, we need to get on the Hutt's good side to like win this war and do all this stuff because they're very powerful. And there's a stark contrast between Tatooine of the prequels and Tatooine of the original trilogy. Tatooine in the prequels is like, oh, this out place that the Republic doesn't care about. They don't even accept Republic credits, all this stuff. And you get to A New Hope, and it's like a police state. Like, Empire is everywhere. They have bases, they have tanks, they have stormtroopers everywhere. I'm curious where Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to fall into this. Is like, is this the Empire kind of coming to Tatooine for the first time and saying, hey, we're staking our claim and we're putting our boot on you, and we're going to take over now. And who
They're
knows?
shutting us down. The Empire is shutting us down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because like by the time we get to Mando, right? There's all those stormtrooper helmets on a pike, so they do stick around. They have a presence there, and people are glad to see them gone. As we see in Return of the Jedi, people were partying in the streets when Palpatine fell down that chute.
These people don't seem to be celebrating that the Empire is here. I don't think the people of Tatooine are necessarily looking for another overlord to to subjugate them. So I think it probably was never a good relationship between the Tatooians and the Empire.
Yeah, well, it's we continue past the shot of the Inquisitors on Tatooine, the three of them landing. There's a couple of shots of them just like intimidating people on the street. So clearly, this isn't a situation where the Empire is being welcomed as liberators. Now, it would be interesting if Palpatine had ever decided, I want to take on Jabba and I want to take over, how they might have been received if they came in and started, knocking down Jabba the Hutt, the guy who is top dog on Tatooine. But that's perhaps a story for Star Wars What If one of these days. We then get to Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen. And we've already talked about this a little bit. Owen telling Obi-Wan to stay away. It's fascinating. I'm really interested to see this dynamic play out. As we talked about already, it's something that is 45 years in the making. We know that these two don't really like each other. Owen says that man's just a crazy old wizard. He calls Obi-Wan crazy. And then Obi-Wan, the way he says, that's your uncle talking. He says uncle with such derision. He's like, that dude sucks. Don't listen to him. Uncle wouldn't allow it because he's a dick. That's the subtext of what Sir Alec is saying.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see this play out, because from Owen's point of view, you can understand what he's saying. You can absolutely understand what he's saying. He doesn't want this guy to take his son away, and that's something that I hope we get to see in this show. That Owen and Beru do really love Luke. And that they really care for his well-being, and they want what's best for him. Because, we only ever see those characters through Luke's eyes in A New Hope, and it's at a contentious point in their relationship. Luke wants to go to the academy. They don't want him to go. And so he sees them as kind of these old farts keeping him in place, not letting him pursue his dreams. And so I hope we get to see that what they're doing there isn't necessarily an act of cruelty, but them trying to protect this kid that they do love, that they do think of as their own son, even though he's their nephew, and that they want what's best for him. And at this moment, they just don't think that having him be trained as a Jedi, because clearly answering an age-old question of how much Uncle Owen knew about what happened to Anakin, clearly they know the danger that's out there. And whether Luke falls to the dark side or whether he just gets killed by these 3 scary looking people that show up on their planet, that's not necessarily what's best for him. Or they may not see it as what's best for him. Even though we as the audience know Obi-Wan is right, the best sort of argument in a movie is where both characters are right. They're both right for different reasons. I think that creates the best sort of conflict and the best sort of character dynamics. And that's something I really hope we get to see between Uncle Owen and old Ben Kenobi.
I definitely think that's happening.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you watch A New Hope, and it's Owen especially is portrayed almost in an antagonistic kind of way, in the sense that he's meant to show what he's like, a physical manifestation of what's holding Luke there, that Luke has a destiny. Luke needs to go out and have adventures and, adventure, excitement, all this kind of stuff.
Just another season.
Just one more season. And Owen is holding him back from that. Even Beru is like, dude, lay off of him. Let him do what he wants. And, that whole dynamic is put in completely new context now, when you can kind of like, you're still like not necessarily on Owen's side, but you're like, he's being a parent. He's not being overprotective. He's being logical. Obi-Wan, you're bad news. You remember what happened last time? You think I'd let that happen again? Like, come on. You definitely understand where he's coming from here. So I love that, definitely humanizing Owen more and giving him just more to do. He had like 5 lines in the entire saga up until this point. Like, it's not a whole lot to go on. So I love that now we're getting more into this character's head, getting these 2 butting heads, and ultimately we're sympathetic to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan made some mistakes, and Owen knows those mistakes, and so it's not, he's not just being overprotective, it's being logical at this point.
Yeah, and it will just be interesting to see Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan, Uncle Owen and Luke and Beru, all just at a different point in life, and at different points in their relationship. Because, a lot gets talked about with Star Wars and fathers and sons, and, George Lucas and his relationship with his father, and that gets sort of channeled into the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader stuff in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But I think if you want the most accurate depiction of what George's relationship was like with his own father, is you watch A New Hope and you watch those scenes between Uncle Owen and Luke Skywalker, because Owen is really saying what George's dad was saying to him back in the day, which is, you have to come and take over my stationery business and run that. That's what I need you to do. And George wanted to go off and have his adventure as a race car driver. And that's basically the conversation between Luke and Owen. Luke wants to go be a fighter pilot. He wants to go join the academy. And Owen's like, no, stay on this farm. and that's, you take those scenes between Luke and Uncle Owen and you change the names to George and George Sr., right? Like that's, that's what you get. That's those scenes. So I think to see, like we said, Owen in a different light, Owen in a different perspective, at a point in life where he's not blocking Luke's dreams necessarily, but he's protecting a little kid. Because in a way, he's still fulfilling the same role, which is stopping someone else from accomplishing what they want to accomplish. He's stopping Obi-Wan from training Luke. And so he's still got that role. And ultimately his motivations are similar, but we might be perhaps more sympathetic to his actions when Luke is 10 years old versus when Luke is 19 years old. He's still a kid in this show versus a young adult in the movie.
The tough thing about raising a child is figuring out when you need to kind of change that approach, when you need to go from protecting to encouraging and enabling and in a good way. And so it's tough because Luke's right at that age where he's coming into adulthood in A New Hope, and that shift kind of needs to happen where he needs to be given some more autonomy. But many times parental figures, they don't really notice that and they hold on to it too long, and that kind of leads down a road where the child will go through self-discovery. It's just sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, and then a lot of that has to do with the influences. Fortunately for Luke, he has the good influence of Leia and Han and Obi-Wan and Yoda in his life to guide him, as opposed to Anakin having the mixed influences of Obi-Wan and Padme, but also Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And of course, it also another quick thing to add too. It'll be interesting to see parallels between the way that perhaps Luke as a child feels about Owen and how Anakin felt about Obi-Wan and the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean,
really
we see that a little bit in Attack of the Clones, right? Because
Yeah.
what does Anakin say to Padme? He's like, it's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's holding me back, right? And that's very much how I think Luke feels towards Owen.
So perhaps
Hope.
Obi-Wan is trying to keep Owen from being the Obi-Wan to Luke that he was to Anakin. And so, in fact, his retort to this might be, yes, but you're now doing to Luke what I did to Anakin.
Joel says someone put Kenobi in a back to tank since Uncle Owen gave Kenobi some burns worthy of lava on Mustafar. All right. That's a sweet reference. And then adds, seriously, my legit dream is to rewatch A New Hope and be mad at Luke for not showing some respect for his Uncle Owen.
I mean, he ends up getting him killed.
Yeah, so that's not really
bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really have. It's kind of
Kenobi
difficult
got
to
the
do that.
last laugh on that burn because Owen got the real burn in the end.
Oh.
No.
So,
dear.
Actually, we'll come back to this. I thought we have a comment here from Thomas about nose prosthetics, but we'll have to come back to that because I thought he was talking about Uncle Owen, but he's actually talking about Obi-Wan. So we'll come back to that. I'll star that comment for later once we get some more shots of Obi-Wan. But let's keep going with the trailer after we have our Uncle Owen sort of confrontation between Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan Kenobi. We get some more shots of the Inquisitors at their kind of headquarters talking about, it sounds like kind of the dream for an Inquisitor is to hunt down Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right? Like one of the Inquisitors says, you're still looking for Kenobi, or you still want Kenobi, he's gone. It's sort of like, this is a pipe dream. This is a pipe dream that the third sister has.
Kenobi is pretty much the white whale out there, like him and maybe Yoda. But I think maybe at this point they may have realized that, Obi-Wan's going to be a lot more active in things potentially than Yoda. So whereas Yoda's not bothering anybody over in his swamp and people might not even know he's alive. Whereas Obi-Wan, I think they know because he's sending these hollow messages to the rebels and all this other stuff.
Well, or at the very least, they know he's out there because somebody messed up Darth Vader. Somebody was.
And, I've always loved the interaction, or just the line that Tarkin has in A New Hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi, surely he must be dead by now.
Right.
Like, so the general idea is like, that old guy, like, come on, is he still like? Surely, he's dead by now.
Which is funny. There's that incongruity of the Tatooine sun also aging someone's years because he's not really an old guy at that point. He's like 50.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So Chris, you said something just there that I find interesting. I want to sort of focus in on for a second. How much interaction do you think there is prior to this show between Obi-Wan and the Rebel Alliance? Because my assumption had always been none, but
right.
You sort of suggested that maybe there was some.
So I'm just looking at things he's done and looking at his capabilities and saying perhaps he's done similar things in the past, because obviously, when Star Wars Rebels takes place much after this show, Rebels takes place, I believe, like 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, whereas this show seems like it's like 5 years after.
Yeah, I think the show is dead in the middle between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, so about 10 years.
10 years. So there's about 5 years probably between this and Rebels. I mean, that's not a lot of time though. So one would think that if he's out there interacting with Rebels in any way 5 years later, he might now and might have been at points in the past. I mean, you can't imagine that Obi-Wan would go 10 years without doing anything once you set the precedent that he can do things. I think that they're probably aware of his activities, and he's probably a wanted person that is one of the, if not the top priorities for the Inquisitors to find, and Darth Vader to hunt down. Another thing too is we don't know how deep into the purge this really is. Like, is this a point where the purge is still very active and there's still a lot of Jedi still out there? We of course know, because of the nature of Star Wars storytelling, there are, because they're stories with other Jedi. But there might be a lot more of them, and that's when, we're going to get into it later. We think there might be other Jedi other than Obi-Wan in this series, and they might be in the middle of being purged right now. So if that's the case, then as long as they know that Obi-Wan's out there and he's active, and even if he's done one thing that's on their radar in the last 10 years, he's going to be prioritized in a way that Yoda probably wouldn't be, because Yoda ostensibly has not left Dagobah. We don't have any reason to think that he's appeared to anyone outside of maybe a vision in a Force sensitive temple thing.
That is until Star Wars Yoda, the 7-part limited series.
Oh, Frank Oz, let's go.
Let's go. Hey, let's do it. I'm
set
all
that
for
in
it.
his adolescence, please. I want teenage Yoda.
Yeah, I want bad boy Yoda with his leather jacket and his motorcycle.
Yes.
Disobeying the council, your
You have a
expertise is,
character
as it
that
was
lived
mine.
almost 1,000 years, and you pick this one time where he's living on a swamp planet to set a series around him, guys.
Oh man, I've always been under the assumption, and I still am, although this may change it, that any interaction that Obi-Wan has is extremely limited with the rebellion. I feel like the Obi-Wan we see at the start of the show is going to basically have cut himself off from everybody else, sort of like grumpy old man Luke in The Last Jedi. And I look at the way Bail Organa and Mon Mothma talk about him in Rogue One. They really talk about him in a way that almost suggests that nobody's ever heard of him since episode 3. She pulls Bail aside and goes, "Your friend, the Jedi, could he help us?" And Bail sort of goes, "All right, yeah, no, you're right. This is the time to reach out." So, but
5 years perhaps of inactivity. No, more than that. The Rogue One takes place.
Rogue One's
10
right
years
before,
after the show.
Yeah. So
that's a decade. Like,
it is a decade.
valid.
Yeah. And so, maybe I could see us, the way I envision it is, this is the only time. He doesn't do anything from 3 until now, and he won't do anything else from now until New Hope, with the exception of the one time Ezra Bridger comes to visit him. And really, that's more Ezra visiting him than him, him heading out. There's some discussion in the chat here about this. Yanni says, "Yeah, my assumption was none too, but I can see him being in contact with Bail like once or twice over the 20 years." Joel says, "Kenobi should only know Bail, and that's it, I think." Thomas suggests that we should revisit the Yoda Chronicles, the Lego series, which was or at the very least, that could be the title for that series that you're pitching, Ben. And Matthew Hardy suggests that perhaps the High Republic setting would be good for a Yoda series. I think
sure.
I think
Definitely.
so too. I think
agree
so
with
too.
that.
That would be good.
If there's a High Republic show or movie and Yoda isn't in it, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, well, they've used him. I feel like in phase 1 of the High Republic books, they used him very effectively because they used him sparingly. But when he was on the page in either on the book in the book or in the comics. It was done in a way that was effective without overdoing it. I thought they think they did well, the Luminous authors, as they so often do. But yeah, so
Yoda's the one who gave them that name.
That quote, yeah, true. But yeah, so the it does seem that Obi-Wan is the ultimate prize for an Inquisitor. It's probably, I wonder, they work under Darth Vader, so perhaps they sense his obsession with Obi-Wan.
Is it like playing Pokemon Go for the Inquisitors? They're like, oh man, it's another Squirtle. I really want an Obi-Wan today.
It might be. It might be like, oh geez, another one of these Padawans that survived. Jeez, all right. I want to catch me a master. I want to get one of them.
Force Bandine, come on! I wanted a Kenobi.
Yeah.
I'll trade you a Shock T for an Obi-Wan. No, that is not a fair trade. What are you talking about?
I got 10 Kanan Jarruses. Was that enough for an Obi-Wan? Give me an Obi-Wan. Come on.
It's be like Russia's like out in public, Inquisitors running. There's a Kenobi over there. Let's go.
Let's get him.
Jeb, Jedi, purge Jeb.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why all three of them show up. They're all after him at the same time.
Jedi go
just like instantly whip out their phones. They're like,
you got the VR. Where is he? Oh, he's over there.
He's over there. Somewhere behind that dragon. Get him.
Darn it, he got away.
Not again. I keep throwing my Inquisitor ball. It doesn't open.
Okay, Lucasfilm. Again, another pitch. You got a TV show, you got an AR game. Okay, there you go. Instant money. We're printing it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel says the Inquisitors are Team Rocket and Darth Vader is the boss. Kenobi is a Pikachu. There we go. There we go. Yeah, it's good stuff. We then get to something that's interesting, and an element that I'm very excited that is in the show. I think we all are, given that it's Star Wars Underworld. Moses Ingram, the third sister, she says, "I want every bounty hunter and lowlife to squeeze him."
Literally,
just a big hug. They're like,
who doesn't want to squeeze Ewan McGregor?
She's like, he just looks so sad all the time. Just give him a big old hug. Everybody will feel better.
I have come to squeeze you with the biggest bear hug possible.
Exactly. That's a Darth Vader line if I ever heard one.
A Wookiee hug. There we go.
Wookiee hug, yeah. Chewie's in the show. That's one of the cameos that we're going to see is Chewie just coming in going, you need a hug, dude. Come on.
I mean, Chewie is a short one hug on screen, so.
Yeah, hey, he's due. And if you've ever been to Disneyland or Galaxy's Edge and you've gotten a hug from Chewbacca, there's something special about a Wookiee hug. You need to. Everybody needs to be hugged by a Wookiee at some point in their life. But this is cool. The idea that the Inquisitors basically unleash the underworld, unleash the bounty hunters of the galaxy, all the scum and the villainy after Obi-Wan. I think that's gonna make for some compelling action in what we see.
I love the this has got to be like a callback to Attack of the Clones, like subcontract killers of like, hey, you hire a guy to kill someone. Vader tells you to kill you. No, I'm gonna outsource this to a bounty hunter. I ain't got time for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we see in the trailer, it looks like 4 LOM, as we've talked about. It looks like we'll see some new bounty hunters, and it's kind of cool to see Obi-Wan just going all in on hand-to-hand combat and having to use a blaster. I mean,
how uncivilized.
Exactly. It's like his like we say, his whole world, his whole life, his whole galaxy has been crumbling down around him, and so he can't even use his civilized weapon with his lightsaber. He's got to resort to
put a target on his back. It will immediately that's like the one thing he does not want to do is spark up that lightsaber.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I had a Star Wars epiphany that I'm sure, you know, when you realize something that you think, oh my gosh, everybody knows this but me. Of course, the How Uncivilized line is a callback to the More Elegant Weapon line. How did I not know that?
Oh, Chris. Chris.
I never thought about that. I never put the two in context with each other until now. And I realized, like, wow, this is so obvious. I wasn't watching the prequels for original trilogy references. I was,
but still. Did you
usually
also know?
Usually, I have those epiphanies too. I just don't talk about them because I'm too embarrassed most of the time.
Did you also? Here's another epiphany. Here's another thing that's going to blow your mind. In Attack of the Clones, when they go into the bar, Obi-Wan says, "Why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?" Because he actually is. Oh
okay,
my! Did you?
That one I got. That one I got.
You need those memes, galaxy brain. You know?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So uncivilized.
Yeah. I know. I never connect the two times he said that word.
Okay, but think about it though. Like, I love the fact that we
all have our blind spots. We've all got our blind
there's
spots.
There's a million references.
Yeah.
How am I going to know everyone?
But like Obi-Wan, if there is there's never really been a gun debate in Star Wars, but if there's ever been an anti-gun Star Wars character, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi right out of the gate, an uncivilized weapon and all this kind of stuff.
Not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
And here he is again using a blaster. That's the only weapon he has to use. It's so ironic.
I bet we get another so uncivilized-esque line in this show. I don't think the writers and the makers of the show are going to be able to resist that. I think we're definitely going to see it. But it's cool in the trailer. There's lots of quick shots. It looks like he gets into a lot of scrapes in this show. Like there's the one with Forlom that looks to be on the roof. There's another scene with a guy with a very nice sweater, as Thomas points out in the chat. How about that sweater on the henchman? Very nice sweater that seems to almost be in like a storage locker facility. And then there's another one where he's out in the desert fighting somebody. It looks like maybe that was on that train. So Obi-Wan, we're looking forward to him facing off with some Inquisitors and Darth Vader, but he's got some other people to beat the crap out of along the way. We get the wanted. There's a great wanted poster of Obi-Wan. I know people have translated the Arabesh on it, but I don't have that. I don't have that in front of me.
I'll have it to you in a second. I gotta scroll down.
All right.
I tweeted about it, and I don't have it in front of me
here.
I love that. I love that the wanted picture is just basically a promotional image from Revenge of the Sith. I'm like, I swear I've seen that picture somewhere before. I swear we've seen that.
Okay, so the Arabesh says, wanted, Obi-Wan Kenobi, offenses, high treason, bounty upon capture.
There we go, high treason.
High treason. It's
high
treason then. Yeah, Matthew in the chat says, them fights with Jango Fett gonna pay off for Obi-Wan. Yeah.
That's true.
That is true. That is true. Let's see what else we got in the trailer. Let's see what there's some dialogue we're missing here. Oh no, we get to the end. We keep going through the trailer. Some more quick shots of the Inquisitors on their base with their ship, walking around in some very shiny looking Imperial floors. There's a new droid of some kind that looks pretty cool. Big droid fighting against Obi-Wan, or at least that's the way what we're meant to believe from the trailer. And then a very cool shot. Perhaps maybe not the coolest of cool shots, but a new shot that introduces a new character that we haven't seen before. The character played by Kumail Nanjiani. He looks to be stressed out for some reason. He looks to be under duress, and I have to say, those are some nice robes he's got on there.
Yeah, yeah, and it looks suspiciously like the same robes that another character is wearing, or seemingly another character, in another scene in the first trailer, where there's a character kind of like moving around. There's like a marketplace in Tatooine, and it's out in the sun, or like under a shade in like a seated area or whatever else. He's like moving, and like Reva like jumps in front of him with her lightsaber. I think that might be him, and I think this is our second Jedi. This is our Jedi on the run, and it's funny, the whole idea of like that sounds like the worst fan casting ever. It's like put Kumail Nanjiani in the Star Wars movie, make him a Jedi. Like, but like now that it's happening, I'm like, okay, that's not a bad idea. Like this is really that's interesting. Having a Jedi on the run, Order 66, maybe coming to Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's stressed out. Like, can you help me? What do we do? And Obi-Wan's like, I'm a little busy here. Can you buzz off? And that whole thing. I think just the fact that the Inquisitors may be after him, and the fact that he is very, very much stressed out here is a testament probably to how much danger he's in.
I hope Obi-Wan uses those exact words, like in the trailer, like he says, they're coming, stay hidden or we will not survive. Now buzz off, I've got things to do. Yeah, I'm really interested if that's the case. If Kumail is playing a Jedi, I'm really interested to see that, because he's a comedian and he's a comic actor, so he's usually in comedies or playing a character that's kind of comic relief, like he does in the Eternals. So it would be kind of cool to see him playing playing a serious character, or as maybe if it were set in the High Republic or something like that, I could see him playing kind of the goofy Jedi. Yeah, again, he's a comedy guy, so I would think that. But this is a time when I don't know, are there really going to be comedian Jedi? So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see if that's the case.
You can imagine that it's also not going to end well for this guy. So
true.
It's either way, it's going to be a pretty heavy part. And hey, I'm game. I love Kumail. I think giving him a more dramatic role, I think would be really interesting.
Absolutely. I will say I'm really glad. I thought for sure he was going to be playing a droid. I thought he was going to go right into that Alan Tudyk, Phoebe Waller-Bridge kind of position of being the funny loudmouth droid. I thought for sure that was going to be him. So I'm excited that he's not. I'm excited that he's just going to be himself, essentially. The other thought I had when looking at this is, what if he's not a Jedi? What if this is like Obi-Wan's using him as a distraction? Like, what if he's some kind of ally of Obi-Wan's, and so they put him in the cloak to get to distract the stormtroopers, distract the Inquisitors, while Obi-Wan sneaks off down the other hallway. Because his robes look a little Obi-Wan-ish as well.
That would be funny if you did,
yeah. But this is the latest in the cast that we've actually now seen on screen. So obviously we've seen Ewan McGregor, Joel Egerton, Bonnie Peace, Moses Ingram, Rupert Friend. We saw Indira Varma in the last trailer. Still missing Benny Safdie, I think. We haven't seen O'Shea Jackson Jr. yet. I feel like
Hayden Christensen,
obviously.
We saw his stomach. I mean, for a second.
Yeah,
in the stump of his arm.
Yeah,
I can see your stomach.
Is there anyone else that we haven't seen yet?
Well, it's funny. There's one I discovered. I didn't discover it. I stumbled upon it on Reddit. It's Raya Kilstead, who I don't believe was actually even officially announced or rumored. There's a promo image floating around. She's the fourth sister.
Okay.
Cool. Which is the kind of the green faced, kind of, she's got something down her back, kind of hair or something going on back there. And it surprised me because I was like, I recognize this person. I looked it up. It's like it's for those of you who are watching Superman and Lois right now, she's playing the big bad in that show. So I was like, wait a minute, this is big crossovers here. But yeah, we've got the confirmation that we're going to have the fourth sister as well in this show.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at the official cast that's been announced. Yeah, we've seen most of the big names. It's just O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Benny Safdie and Simone Kessel that are missing.
And
at the moment.
this image also confirms that Indira Varma is playing Imperial Captain. So that's an interesting name.
Great name. Great name. Interesting stuff. Good to see Kumail in there. Very exciting. Trailer continues. We get a close-up look at some kind of new droid or something that looks to fit in the palm of somebody's hand, which is kind of neat.
Okay, so I heard some things about this droid. I don't want to say it because I feel like it's a giant spoiler. But
Okay.
all I will say is Star Wars News Net had a report recently about this droid potentially being connected to a major character, and they kind of laid it on hard that like this is going to be like the next Baby Yoda. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but you know, I mean, who knows? But you know, definitely could be a pivotal part of the show, and you know, kind of cute. Who knows? It's gonna be interesting to see how they think, but it looks to be like maybe in the hands of an Inquisitor. That doesn't spell that doesn't look good.
Yeah, that could be good news, could be bad news. Who knows? We'll find out. And then we close out the trailer with the third sister yelling, "You can't run, Obi-Wan. You can't escape him." And some more quick shots of Inquisitors, of Stormtroopers, of Obi-Wan, and all the while, a Sith Lord is being put together, Darth Vader. As we said off the top, pretty cool that they went with something other than the helmet. But they know that everybody recognizes everything about Darth Vader these days. And the shot of the arm too, the arm coming on him again, sort of reminding us and leaning into the fact that, you know, this show will have lots of Darth Vader, the costume, in it. But it's also going to get into Darth Vader, the character underneath it all, and Anakin Skywalker, and, you know, Hayden Christensen and everything going on there. So looking pretty cool. Yeah.
And it just drives home further like how horrific of an existence he has. Like that whole like the chest plate. Like we've all, since we were kids, we were like, oh yeah, just a little chest plate, just a little box, just hangs on his chest. No, not at all. It's this big thing, and it's got giant spikes in the center, and it goes into his chest, and it's horrifying.
Yeah. Well, and the arm, it looks like, even though it's going off to the side, the way it moves on the screen is evocative of, you know, like the, you know, Day of the Dead hand bursting up, or, you know, the dead hand bursting up from a grave.
Skeletal.
Like it's skeletal zombie. Like you like I said, you expect it to be bursting out in front of a tombstone sort of thing. The way it moves on screen, you know, getting at the, you know, he's living kind of a half life because of how, you know, how bad things have gone ever since he turned to the dark side. Yanni in the chat says, we saw Hayden's sexy burnt up arms. Joel says, gonna say Anakin is looking a bit more machine now than man, twisted and evil. And Matthew Hardy describes the chest plate as a giant pacemaker. Good stuff. So there's one final shot in the trailer, one final look at Obi-Wan. Looking pretty defeated, looking pretty bad, pretty beaten. I was talking to our friend Din this past week, and he was sort of saying he thinks this shot might be Obi-Wan's realization of who is under all of that armor. That this might be the moment where he's confronting that awful truth, and that you can really see the pain in Obi-Wan's eyes in this shot. Which, he looks distraught about something.
Yeah, credit to the lighting here, and also just Ewan McGregor's acting. Like, he looks completely different. And he looks older in this. Like, he looks like he's aging into Alec Guinness's form in this shot, because, you know, he's just, there's so much. It kind of reminds me, there's a shot I think it's the first Revenge of the Sith trailer, where the whole thing is kind of punctuated with, again, Vader suiting up and Lord Vader rise, and as he's rising, there's a shot of Obi-Wan looking up, and he's got the hood up, and it's on Utapau. It's trailer magic, kind of things. But like as a kid, I was like, oh my god, it's Obi-Wan, and he's looking at Vader coming up. It's so cool. But like this actually again feels like that. It's like he's witnessing kind of the rebirth of Darth Vader, and maybe even confronting Vader at this moment. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe he also looks like he might have been captured. Maybe he's waiting to confront his captor, and maybe the person who captured him isn't the person who's coming to interrogate him. Instead of an Inquisitor, he's faced with a proper Sith Lord.
I don't know. I don't know how the logic. I don't know how I would accept the logic of this happening, because you would think at this point, it's been 10 years, Vader will be a known commodity. Obi-Wan knows the name Vader. He would put 2 and 2 together at that point and figure out what things. But what if, he's living in a cave, maybe he doesn't know what's going on. What if Vader confronts him and Obi-Wan hasn't put the pieces together? And Vader knows about it and walks in the room, and Obi-Wan's just like, you seem familiar, but also I don't know you. And that could be a very interesting scene.
Yeah. If maybe he's been living for 10 years thinking he killed Anakin. Maybe, he saw him burn up, right? And he went to Mustafar to kill Anakin, right? That's what him and Yoda decide.
I will do what I must.
In the Jedi Temple. Yeah. He said, send me to kill the Emperor. I face the Emperor. I will not kill Anakin. Like, he knows that's their only choice, and even Padme realizes it when she says, "You're going to kill him, aren't you?" Like, it's
and he doesn't deny it.
He doesn't deny it.
He doesn't even lie and deny it. He's like, he's become a threat. I've got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and he stands there and he watches him burn. And I think in Obi-Wan's mind, when he walked away, there was no way Anakin was coming back from that. So yeah, maybe you're right. It's likely that he probably has pieced it together by now, but you never know. Maybe he's lived with that guilt of killing Anakin, and it might be interesting for him to think, oh, I didn't kill him. Maybe I have another chance to save him.
He probably doesn't have Wi-Fi in that cave, so he may not get the news.
Vader does say, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Saying that to Luke about redeeming Anakin's soul. I don't know. Could be interesting. But yeah, that's the trailer. That's trailer number 2 for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I promised we'd go back to these comments. Thomas says, can we talk about possible nose prosthetics on Ewan at the end, and also in the shot of Owen? Saying, they both of them seem to have nose prosthetics. I'll be honest, I didn't notice. I don't. This isn't something I'm really good at spotting, but sometimes they need to do that. Like with Owen, I can see it. Maybe they're trying to get that A New Hope Uncle Owen look a little bit more going. They're trying to move Joel Egerton a little bit closer to Phil Brown. I believe that's who played Uncle Owen. And so maybe giving him a new nose might be a good way to do that. But I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't notice. Did either of you two?
Nope.
Either you two?
I did not.
I don't see anything. I have not seen anything. I'm not going to deny that. They could be doing some trickery here with makeup and stuff like that to further. I think Ewan looks enough like Alec Guinness to be passable, if not be very spot on. But they may be doing some trickery here. I don't personally see anything, but we'll wait for we'll wait for the Disney Gallery Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll see.
Yeah, wait for that literally next year when it comes out. I want to just clarify something we were saying there about Obi-Wan not knowing Vader as Anakin. What I mean by that is Obi-Wan not knowing the Darth Vader like armor is Anakin, because he knows Anakin became Darth Vader, but but does he know that Darth Vader was given a new suit?
He saw Palpatine. He saw the recording in the Jedi Temple where it's like Lord Vader arise, all this kind of stuff. He knows Anakin is Darth Vader, but he doesn't know that the guy in the suit, which he never saw, at least up until this point, is Darth Vader. So, you can assume, and maybe that's what will come up on the series, is that he knows all about it and whatever else.
Yeah.
And that, Vader is this guy or whatever else. But because that would be my biggest thing of like, even if like it wasn't like a known thing, or like the Empire wasn't advertising that Darth Vader was a thing, word would get around after 10 years that this Darth Vader guy running around.
Or at the very least that the Emperor has this enforcer in this terrifying suit who has this heavy breathing and a red lightsaber.
But as I think a lot of great Star Wars does, this show could recontextualize what we know, and many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our point of view. This could upset a lot of the things that we know dear and dear to our hearts that are true in the Star Wars galaxy. We've never really fully explored this era in detail, especially in live action. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we were already talking about that with Uncle Owen, right? That there's been a debate since the prequels. Like, did Obi-Wan tell Owen the full truth? That line, he has too much of his father in him. Does that mean Vader, or does that mean just what Owen saw of Anakin and him storming out to try and rescue Shmi? Of course, when it was written, as we talk about all the time, it meant something completely different. They were talking about a different character altogether. They weren't talking about Darth Vader at all. But now we know. We know for sure who they're talking about. So that's the trailer. That's the trailer. Any final thoughts on the second and most likely final trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I could not be more excited for this show. I mean, this more than anything I think we've seen before feels like the most sequely to the prequely thing that we've gotten since Revenge of the Sith came out. Mm-hmm. This is very much just like Rogue One was kind of like a prequel to A New Hope, and was so kind of exciting for people that love A New Hope and grew up with that film as being their Star Wars for a decade plus. I think seeing this as a sequel to Revenge of the Sith and the prequels is that kind of for me. So I'm just really excited for it. It's just another golden egg in the golden age of Star Wars that we're in right now.
Yeah. Ben, any final thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah, it's incredible, but also leaves a lot to be teased, and I don't want to see anything else, to be honest. I'm satisfied with this. I want to go in knowing what I know now. I know that will be possible. But we've only got a few more weeks. I'm hoping the trailers are going to be limited, and they've resorted to putting shots of people getting on and off giant starships to avoid putting spoilers in TV spots and stuff like that. So, Disney Plus, they're not above, hiding things. So, it's going to be very interesting. But, as with a lot of this stuff, I think Mandalorian was very different from the trailers and how it presented itself. Book of Boba Fett, I think, was something similar to that. Was it's Book of Boba Fett, but there was a lot of other stuff going on, and I think this show is going to be similar. It's going to be very dour, but I think I'm looking forward to seeing some lighter moments, some Kenobi quips, because you can't have it without some quips, and just everything else that they are hiding from us. They're hiding a ton of things from us. I just want to see them.
Yeah. Ben, I think if we could, we'd put you into a stasis chamber between now and Celebration that first day, when we'll probably get our first peek at this show proper. With
I'll be right back, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, is it out yet?
Yeah, we'll freeze you in carbonite. Yeah. Yeah, I have to say I've absolutely adored these trailers. Like I said off the top, these trailers have been some of the most fun Star Wars bits of marketing in the last few years. And that's not to say we didn't have fun with the other stuff, but there's something about these ones, and maybe it's the John Williams music, and maybe it's just having Ewan McGregor back, and maybe it's the tease and the promise of Darth Vader, and you know, seeing some other familiar faces like Uncle Owen and that sort of thing. But there's definitely been an air around this whole project, a special vibe around it from the moment it was announced at D23 until now, when we're 3 weeks away from seeing it. It's pretty fantastic. We'll give Jesse Bennett in the chat the final words. Still disappointed we never got a hello there in the trailer. They're saving that for the show. I think they're saving that for the show. It would be shocking if we made it all the way through 6 episodes without a hello there.
It's gonna be the last line in the last episode. I'm gonna just wait that long.
Or it'll be the post-credit scene at the end of the at the end of the 6th episode. Obi-Wan will just come back and be like,
it'll just be like cut to the inside of Obi-Wan's hut. It's just blank, and he just wanders in the frame. Oh, hello there. You're still here?
Go full Ferris Bueller on it. What you still doing? Yeah, it's over. Go home. Go home. You will go home.
You already are home because you're watching Disney Plus.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Speaking of Disney Plus, let's talk a little bit about Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett. We'll cruise on our bantha on the sands of Tatooine over to the Book of Boba Fett and and what we saw of the show. I'm assuming you both have watched this.
I had a very busy Star Wars day and did not have time to watch it. And then today I was like, oh no, we're talking about it on the show. I don't have time to watch it before the show. So nope.
All right, Ben, you better have watched it. Otherwise, I will rant about it for the next 20 minutes.
Way too late last night watching.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, you stayed up way too late last night. Yeah, same.
I should have done that.
Yeah, sleep is for the weak.
I forgot about it last night.
To be fair, there was almost no marketing for it.
I was too busy thinking about Kenobi yesterday. Yeah. I couldn't. That's all I was.
They just kind of dropped it, really.
Yeah, they kind of dropped it, and there is a trailer for it, but it dropped at like the same time. So it was like you can have this trailer and this show at the same time, and sort of like, well, why bother with a trailer when you have the show at the same? I don't understand. I don't understand. You can watch the trailer on the YouTube channel. I'm looking at it right now, but I don't know. Who understands these sorts of things? But okay, Ben, what do you think of this latest installment of the wonderfully named documentary series about the making of the Star Wars TV shows?
Yeah, I think again it defies the name, it defies the just weird marketing of it, and it's really some of my favorite, I think, documentaries of the modern era are these little short things, and they're not short. I mean, an hour long, and they pack a lot into it. And they really they managed to kind of touch on a little bit of everything. I just checked. There's nothing on StarWars.com about this thing. They're not even advertising it on the official Star Wars site. Lucasfilm, what are you doing?
It's good. It's really good.
Really good. That's what makes me mad. It's just like, people should be watching this. You should be advertising this because it's freaking great. And even if you're lukewarm on or even don't like Book of Boba Fett, I think you can find a lot to like in this because it goes in depth with everything from obviously Tim Morrison and I want to say Fennec Shand, but I'm thinking of all her character names. I was going to say Fennec Shand, Melinda May. No. There's just tons of interviews, and it's great, and even freaking ridiculous. There's a shot of Robert Rodriguez playing guitar with Grogu, who has his own tiny guitar, and he's playing along. And I'm like, this is what I signed up Disney Plus for. Okay, this is it. But let
me make a statement, Ben, and you see if you agree.
Okay.
it's great. There's lots of great stuff in this documentary from Jon Favreau, from Dave Filoni, Tim Morrison, Ming-Na, from Robert Rodriguez, Mark Hamill, Kathy Kennedy, all of them. There's great stuff in there. But the real star of this thing, Danny Trejo.
He is great.
He's the best. I love his
I love his whole thing, and he's
his
talking
enthusiasm.
about, and he's talking about, I don't trust you if you don't like dogs, and all that kind of stuff, and talking about how the Rancor is just a big puppy, and he's like, I didn't expect Danny Trejo because he's not in Book of Boba Fett that much. He's got one scene, but I think he's got more screen time in this documentary than he does in the entire Book of Boba Fett. He
might. He might well have more screen time.
That's why they brought him on to star in the documentary.
Yeah, well, he's great. He really is great in it. I like the whole stuff. All the stuff about the Rancor in the documentary is both like my favorite stuff in it because I love seeing how they did it technically. I love hearing Danny talk about it. I love all of it. But it also embodies, I think, some of Jon Favreau's lesser storytelling instincts, because I think John I feel like John manages to have both the perfect storytelling instincts for Star Wars and the storytelling instincts that I wish we would stay away from at Star Wars at the same time. So it's this interesting duality from him, because right away at the beginning of the doc, he's talking about how he wanted to have Boba be more than just what he was in the old films. He didn't want to just do a bounty hunter, nameless badass. He wanted to do something interesting. He wanted to have that. They wanted to have him be something more than that. And I think that's really good. I think that's what you need. But then later in the show, he's like, well, we just did the Rancor because you got to do the Rancor, basically, is the subtext to what he's saying at one point. And I'm like, that's the same thing I took issue with when JJ said you have to do the Cantina because you have to do the Cantina. And it's like, I both I understand that instinct, absolutely. But I also feel like you can do new and interesting things that can stand alongside the Cantina or can stand alongside the Rancor. Now, granted, what we eventually got from the Rancor, the scene with Boba, where he says he wants to ride it, and then ultimately the scenes later where he is riding it are so terrific that I think, John then came full circle and delivered on something really interesting. But I think Favreau does and I've realized this over the course of the Book of Boba Fett. I think Favreau is really good at big picture stuff. This dude understands the big picture stuff, but sometimes his ideas for episode, like stuff that happens episode to episode, is not my favorite. And I felt that a lot in Book of Boba Fett. I feel like the overall concept was strong, but some of the things in the episodes, and I put it to the writing. There's other places we could pick on the directing and things like that, perhaps, but I put it to the writing, especially the episode that introduced the Vespa gang. Characters that I do like, but that was that episode felt like a first draft. It needed a couple of rewrites. Just Stephen Root just bursting onto the same scene out of nowhere. I was like, wait a minute, where the hell did this guy come from? Love Stephen Root, put him in every scene, but come on.
The Vespa gang in that episode, I think, is one thing they conspicuously just skip over in the documentary.
Yeah, it is kind of
talk about it much. I don't think they even mention or have interviews with any of those guys.
Yeah,
which, I mean, it sucks because I didn't really have an issue with them per se, but a lot of other people did. I wonder if that was a factor there. I don't know, but it does cover a lot. I don't want to focus it because they couldn't cover everything, but I think they did go through just about episode by episode of talking about stuff. And when they get to the Luke stuff, they go all in and they talk about Grogu and all that stuff. They show tons of just fascinating footage of Rosario Dawson and Mark Hamill hanging out, which is something I didn't know I needed. And it's great.
Yeah, the stuff about the Luke episode was really interesting, and it was really cool to see that again. They brought Mark Hamill to the set, and they had him sort of perform those scenes, and then they had the other actor come in and perform them afterwards, and just how they built out that scene. And again, they used in the script, they used the code name Plo Koon for Luke Skywalker. So anybody that's working on a Star Wars thing or happens to find a Star Wars script lying around in the trash somewhere, if you see the name Plo Koon in that script, and it's not obviously set in the prequel era, that's Luke Skywalker. You've just discovered that Luke Skywalker is going to be in the show.
See, now Filoni can use this to his advantage. Now he can actually legitimately put Plo Koon in a Star Wars show and just put it in the script. People will be like, "Oh, they're bringing Luke Skywalker back! How great!"
Oh man.
Yeah. Yanni in the chat points out that Favreau does mention the Vespa gang real briefly. When he talks about how the next generation of people growing up in the galaxy are like modifying their bodies. But given the importance of the gang in the show, I'm surprised they didn't talk about it more. And given the fact that they have, Sophie Thatcher's a decent star. Like, she's been in other things. She's got some prominence to her name that, I would think they would want to put her in there.
And I mean, I think that when you watch this and you see like everyone wearing masks and face shields, stuff like that, you drive on the fact that this was made, peak COVID. And this was like, it was intense for them, and it may have affected how this documentary was made and who they could get on to do interviews, stuff like that. So I can't really knock them for what may or may not have been in it. Yeah,
and Joel drops a super chat here saying still calling it Book of Boba was a rush production and didn't allow Favreau enough time to hash things out. Maybe that's certainly possible. It does seem like Book of Boba Fett came about as they were writing Mando season 2. They sort of realized that this was something they wanted to do, so it's possible, and maybe that played into it as well. Some of the things that we're talking about here.
It is pretty amazing that it was announced, was that during COVID when Mando season 2, or was that pre?
Yeah. It was Mando season 2 was shot right before COVID, and then it came out December 2020.
But I mean, still impressive how like they announced it and it came out on time. I mean, it was right at the end of the year, but like they made good on that promise. So like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was rushed a little bit, because I'm sure, from what I understand about the movie industry, they had to relearn how to do everything due to the mess we've been dealing with. So
yeah. They also talk a bit about the Mando stuff. I think it would have been interesting if one thing I was hoping they would discuss a little bit was why they chose to do so much stuff that is basically season 3 of Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, Filoni at one point acknowledges that, they knew that people would like to see Mando in this show, and so that's why they put him in. But that to me suggests you put Mando in the show and you just have him interacting with Boba Fett the whole time. You don't do a full, 1.5 episodes of The Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett show.
Favreau and Filoni kind of get into it a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, we think, people would be missing Grogu and Din, and they want to see what's going on. They're like, yeah, I get that, but like giving Luke freaking Skywalker an entire episode of Book of Boba Fett, that's a big jump. Okay, guys, I want to know the thought process to that. I'm not necessarily complaining, because I think that was amazing. I'm still confused by their logic of why that happened. And I genuinely, like, not just from a cynical point of view, I'm like, okay, what was the reasoning? Why was it important to do all of this and to have all these Ahsoka and Luke and all this big stuff show up in a Boba Fett show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm not saying I'm interested in hearing their reasoning, not because I think I want to like criticize them for it. I just think it would be interesting to hear. I think it would be interesting to hear why they chose to do that. But they kind of danced around it a little bit, which is which is fine. That's their prerogative.
Classic
They don't have to tell us.
baloney.
But Joel does point out that they talked about a little bit that Book of Boba Fett was Mando season 3 internally, which again, the Mandoverse is sprawling out. Book of Boba Fett was the first thing to come out of it that wasn't the Mandalorian. But I feel like for them, they're looking at all of these shows perhaps as chapters in the same story. Yeah, perhaps a story that's driven most by the Mandalorian, but the Boba Fett chapter and the Ahsoka chapter and perhaps the Rangers of the New Republic chapter are all chapters in the same story as well. It was also real cool to see Doug Chang talking about the Naboo starfighter and seeing him in there in the cockpit.
Yeah, that was so good. Just like hearing him talk about that and talk about it, like this is a ship that he designed, that he created essentially. And him talking about, I sat in it in London back when we did the prequels 22 years ago, and now doing it again for this one and how they talk about how it's hot rodded up and all this kind of stuff. I love that, and the emphasis on bringing back this classic starfighter, just great. I think overall, as we've said, the doc is really good. They do a good job of sort of hitting most of the main points, with, as we said, perhaps the exception of the mods. It would have been nice to maybe see some more stuff about the Pikes and a little bit more about the Hutts that we do see. But those characters didn't get a ton of screen time in the show, so it makes sense they wouldn't get a ton of screen time in the documentary either. Nice to see Cad Bane getting the focus. That was cool to see him. See how they did that. Very impressive bit of. I'm not even sure what the right word is to describe, like costuming or animatronics or something. It's real impressive. It seemed like a combination of all those, and I think it was very impressive to see, because I kind of assumed there was maybe some digital elements to it, and maybe there was, but like. There's on-set video you can tell is not done by CGI or anything. There's no special effects applied to it. And it's him talking. You can hear Corey Burton talking in the voice. It's very, very impressive. And I know it didn't work for some people, but I really liked how Cad Bane functioned and it looked in that episode.
Mm-hmm. With both Cad Bane and Grogu, it's really interesting to see how good they look on set, because you assume, like you said, Ben, they'd be digital, but it's amazing how much they can just accomplish in camera before they hand it over to the ILM crews to put the finishing touches on it. It's really quite an incredible accomplishment from the costuming and the creature departments. Anything else jump out at you, Ben, in the doc, or anything that you thought was missing, anything like that?
No, like I said, I think they covered a lot. It's funny, I wasn't expecting as much Mark Hamill as we got.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of, and rightfully so. It's really cool to see him kind of come back and continue to consult on this, and the process that they went through. And them even kind of acknowledging of like, hey, we did it in season 2 of Mandalorian, and maybe it wasn't quite there, and we kept on going. And they acknowledged the Shamook guy who they hired to do.
Didn't they say his real name too?
Yeah, they said his real name too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shamook. I only know your online screen name. But he got hired. They talk about how he helped improve their process, and like, it was really cool. It's really cool, and like the results speak for themselves. But just the fact that you see like old Mark Hamill doing those scenes, that we're now familiar with is crazy, and it's really cool.
It's so weird seeing Mark in his Return of the Jedi-esque costume. Like, I see why they gave him a new look for Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. Like it's so odd. It's cool, but it's there's a little bit of dissonance to it, cognitive dissonance of like, whoa, that's That looks like someone cosplaying as Luke Skywalker when really it's Luke Skywalker. Yeah, a real entertaining hour. Would definitely recommend if folks haven't checked it out.
I'm looking forward
Chris.
to watching it, and I'm annoyed. I was annoyed when I found out that I'd missed it with all the other excitement. I'm like, shoot, I forgot that was coming out today too. So thank you to this podcast for reminding me about all the Star Wars things that I miss and forget about, because that's what happens inevitably.
All right. Well, let's bookend the show. Let's close out with some more Kenobi news. We talked a lot about the trailer. Let's quickly mention this new poster that came out. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then sort of I don't even know. It's like he's like half faded in over an image of I'm guessing is Tatooine, and they're on Tatooine, looming or not even looming, just in the background, far away. Is Darth Vader with his
even in
ignited.
The poster, Kenobi has the high ground.
Although it looks like in the poster, Vader's really trying very hard to get the high ground. He wants the high ground badly.
See, that's the thing we don't realize is that this is going to end up with Obi-Wan growing to be 10 stories tall and fighting Vader.
Yeah, Ben, you're gonna have to say that again because you cut out for a second there.
Sorry. This is going to end. What we don't know is this is going to end with Kenobi growing to be 10 stories tall and fighting Vader.
It'll be like the Moon Knight finale. And also in Obi-Wan Kenobi news, Ewan McGregor was on the Jimmy Kimmel show this week, and he unveiled the new Obi-Wan Kenobi Hasbro Black Series figure.
Let me just say, those pictures were not out until today, and he showed the figure on Jimmy Kimmel Live last night. And we were talking, me and Matthew were talking in the group chat. We're like, yeah, they had to. They definitely like scrambled around and released this, like, because I don't think you were supposed to do that.
Really? You think they gave him one to not, and they weren't expecting him to reveal it?
Because why would you drop the official pictures for the first Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure on May 5th? Why do you do that?
Because there's always a bigger 5th. That's why. It's a cool looking figure. I'm excited to get one. I have the press release from Hasbro. They're calling it the Obi-Wan Kenobi Wandering Jedi figure, and it will be available to pre-order from Hasbro Pulse and most major retailers on May 11th. It's expected to ship and be in stores spring 2023, which is the most Lucasfilm Hasbro thing of all time. The show is out in spring 2022, but the figures, no. Those come a year later in spring 2023.
So insane.
Yeah, that's what happens when you.
And then, even when they say this is coming out in stores this week, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna see that in like 6 months to a year. Like, it's not gonna be in Walmart. When I go to Walmart, they're gonna have Rogue One figures still. Like, it's not gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly. But the figure itself, I quite like it. I would definitely pick one up if I saw one next year.
He's wielding a lightsaber. Confirmed. We're gonna get the blue light, but ignite the blue.
Ignite the blue, indeed. They also, I think Star Wars also announced that we've had our Mando Mondays and our Fett Fridays, and we're gonna have Obi-Wan Wednesdays starting soon. That will be product reveals on every Wednesday relating to Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series. But yeah. There it is. That's a roundup of May 4th Star Wars news and announcements and releases and trailers and all of that good stuff. And I think that means we've reached that point in the show where it's about as good a time as any to begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right, so happy Star Wars week, everybody. May the 4th be with you. There's always a bigger fit, and happy, not happy, revenge of the Sixth. I don't know is that supposed to be happy or not? Is that like
Yeah, that's like a
Revenge of the Sixth?
it's like a solemn, somber Revenge of the Sixth.
Yeah, is that like a Memorial Day or whatever?
Yeah, that's where
Canadian.
well on Revenge of the Sixth, that's where we honor all those we lost in Order 66.
Yes, there we go.
Naturally.
That makes sense. So buckets off.
Buckets off.
For Revenge of the Sixth. Thank you so much to everybody for sticking around and watching our whole live stream. Thank you everybody who made it to the end of the show, watching later, listening, or watching. We're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you like the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube, even if you usually are watching or listening on a podcast app too, because that just helps us grow over there. And we want to thank everybody who left super chats, especially Joel, who as always leaves far too many super chats. How many pancakes are we gonna have to get you, Joel, at IHOP? Or you like 10 stacks of pancakes for all these super chats? Oh my gosh, we do not deserve this, but thank you nonetheless for all your great insights, and thanks to our great channel members for supporting the channel. Please do that if you are able. It's a low amount to continuously support us so that we can start getting better equipment and also have great events for everybody at conventions. Make sure you check out that Patreon, patreon.com/the SWU. That is where we have all of our merch active and updated. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure, as always. Great fun getting into everything and breaking down a trailer. That's always those are always some of my favorite shows, is the trailer breakdowns, and I feel like we get to do those a lot more frequently than we used to, which I quite like. And so anytime we get an excuse to go through a 90 seconds or 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes sometimes even of Star Wars previews, I really enjoy that, and I really look forward to it. And as I said, I think these Kenobi trailers have been some of the best in recent memory, and I've just had such a great time breaking them down, and I had a lot of fun talking Book of Boba as well, or Book of Boba Disney Gallery, because I think they're also doing a great job over on the making of documentary side of things with Star Wars these days as well. They've learned since the Secrets of the Force Awakens doc, which isn't even that bad. It's a decent enough thing, but they've made some real good ones in the last couple of years, especially with the unfortunately named Disney Gallery series. So great fun with all of that, and I'm so looking forward to seeing what next week brings as we get ever closer to Star Wars Celebration, and the real star of that event, our IHOP party, where we will have pancakes and talk Star Wars and listen to music and do all sorts of fun things like that. So we have nothing but good things to look forward to, and I look forward to doing all this again in 7 days' time.
Heck yes. I had a promo thing for the IHOP still on here, and now I don't know where it went. Did I delete that? Oh, here it is. I found it. Yes.
There it is. There it is.
Celebration meetup on Thursday, May 26th at 7 p.m. There was a bit of time zone mixing up with the event, so if you were invited on Facebook to an event that was at 9 p.m., it's not at 9 p.m. Don't show up at 9 p.m. It's at 7 p.m. Facebook glitched and was confused, and I fixed it.
There we go.
They're weird.
Yeah, it was like, I'm like, why does this say? Oh, because okay, some of us are in Central.
I specifically looked it up. I I converted it myself and then put it in Facebook, and it still screwed it up.
So what it is because the event is taking place in Anaheim, it defaulted to, oh, do you mean the local time? And that's what happened. So, so for anybody,
try to outsmart me.
I would have done the same thing, and it wasn't until I, who am in the correct time zone, looked it up and saw 9 p.m. and I was like,
wait a minute.
What happened?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I fixed it. It's fixed. So everybody, I fixed it really quick too. It wasn't like long before I noticed it. So we're good. 7 p.m. right after the convention ends. Just head over. We're not gonna start doing anything like super fun, like all of the food and the like if we do any like
No. You have to be there right away. The fun starts at 7:00 and it doesn't stop until the evening is over.
7:05.
Look, if you want to get a good
7:05.
seat, you might want to get in line at least a couple hours, like 5:00. Knock off the convention, get over the IHOP. They're going to be queuing out on the sidewalk, and you want to make sure you get in on this.
We'll do it. We'll do it like a Blue Jays game. We'll start at 7:07.
There we go. That is when it officially starts. But you can walk in at 7 p.m. if you, for some reason, teleport from the convention floor as it closes all the way to IHOP, which is actually not that far. Across the street.
It's close.
And also,
that's why we picked it.
The IHOP directly. Apparently, there's 2 IHOPs. Okay, go to the one across the street directly.
Yeah.
Don't go to the one down the street. Two different ones.
You do not need to
just stress the right IHOP here. I don't want you to go and get pancakes at the wrong one.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where the SWU podcast is.
So check that out. We'd love to see you guys there. We can't wait. And Ben, thank you for hosting as well.
Naturally, thanks guys. This was a pleasure as always. May the 4th be with you. Hope you guys had a great Star Wars day. And obviously the biggest one here is happy there's always a bigger 5th. And I can't wait for Revenge of the Sith in just a couple hours now. But the one I'm really looking forward to is I Am the 7th. So we'll see what happens over the weekend. But yeah, it's been a momentous week, and I think it's going to continue to heat up, guys. I mean, we had a great Star Wars week, but it's Star Wars month, okay? It's only up from here. So a lot to look forward to, and I'll be seeing you guys in a few weeks' time.
Oh, heck yeah. And of course, you can find Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E, and you can find me at Seek3PO. If you want to send us feedback, swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can do that, or just super chat right here. Don't forget to review the show if you're listening on a podcast app that lets you leave reviews, especially if you're not in the United States, because we have less of those per country and in other places, and it helps out even more in those particular like Apple Podcast stores and the like. And make sure you check out all those other shows on the Culture Slate Network: Star Wars Culture, Chatter Squadron, and Eye on Canon. And as always, at the SWU is where you can find us throughout the week on social media. So thanks everybody. We are out of here. We'll see you same time, same place next week. That place is YouTube. That time is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the patrons, and 30 minutes after that for everybody else. I'm Chris, and for Dominic and Ben and all the other fantastic people we have here at the Star Wars Underworld, may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.